All right, today we are located here at a very famous coffee shop, Candor Coffee. Amazing atmosphere, amazing coffee, and we have an opportunity to sit down with the founders and the owners of Candor to tell us a little bit about their life story, how Candor began, the ups, the downs, and explain their journey. I think a lot of people want to open a coffee shop. It's a passion project, something that people dream of doing, but you actually did it. And hopefully today we'll get to hear a lot more of your guys' story. We'll get to even dive into the numbers a little bit, if you allow us, Daniel.
Sure, open book. I'll tell you what I remember.
What you remember, okay.
I don't have QuickBooks in my head, I just kind of remember.
We'll get approximates.
Yeah.
No trade secrets will get exposed today.
Maybe.
All right, awesome. Well, let's get started. I'd love to know, and I think that the people who run a business, it's a true reflection of who they are as individuals. And you guys run a very successful, well-known business here at Candor. And it's a great reflection of who you guys are. So I'd love to start to understand who you are. How did you guys meet? So if you can tell me a little bit about your story.
Sure. I can go first. My name is Daniel. Grew up in Auburn, Washington. Raised in a Christian home. I'm 30 years old now. When we bought Candor, I was 26. I do own another business. I've been a business owner since I got out of high school, essentially, which was 12 years ago. So this has been, I guess, business 3 or 4 out of the ones that I've had.
Wow. And Sara is your wonderful wife.
Yes.
How did you guys meet?
We met, it's like a long story, long kind of deal, but I'm going to try and make it as short as possible. His sister went on a mission trip with one of my good friends, so I ended up meeting her through him, and we didn't hit it off right away. I couldn't find anything in common with her, but later she followed me on Instagram, and I was in school for graphic design, and I posted a project, and she wanted help. She was running a small girls magazine, and she messaged me and was like, hey, I have this little magazine. I would love some design help. And I was like, yes, I love magazines. Magazines don't really exist anymore. And so I offered to help, and I was super excited. We just became good friends, realizing we were very opposite. And she was asking for some business advice from Daniel, and he kind of heard about me, and he was like, oh, like slowly started checking these boxes in his head, like, this makes sense. I like this about this girl. And so he kind of made up his mind that he was going to reach out to me, message me on Facebook, and it made sense because I was coming up to Seattle for a track meet. Mm-hmm. And I ran track at San Diego State, so I was competing at UW, and he was like, okay, I could actually meet this girl. And so he just made it a point. He canceled his dentist appointment and came to my track meet.
Oh, wow.
And
Big sacrifice.
Big.
Put the dentist off to meet my future wife.
He brought me a hot chocolate because I don't drink coffee. And we went out to dinner with him and his sister, and we just got along great.
Yeah, it was great.
Okay, so 2 questions.
Yes.
Number 1, you don't drink coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
But you own a coffee shop.
I own a coffee shop.
How does that make sense?
Like I said, I went to college in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And all through college, I would find all the different coffee shops and go study there. It was just a place where I could focus. There was enough white noise, and I just love design. And I feel like coffee shops have some of the most fun, innovative, creative design, like interior design. And so it was like an inspiring place to be. There's a ton of creatives in coffee shops. So I ended up being in a lot of coffee shops. And in San Diego, I drank a lot of matcha, and there was, one shop in particular that I loved, and they had a ton of fun, like house sodas and a bunch of different options. So I didn't feel like I needed to drink coffee. But when it comes down to it, coffee just gives me terrible anxiety, and I hate feeling like that. So I just don't drink it.
Really? So are you the coffee lover?
Kind of the coffee lover. I grew up drinking coffee probably starting in middle school. I just pour myself a cup, French vanilla creamer, On the way to, I had a mug, got a free mug at one of the churches we visited as a kid, and I was drinking from this mug like every day on the way to school. And I didn't really come across like good coffee until, it's probably been 7 or 8 years ago now. Really not too long ago. I was in my early 20s. A friend of mine at one of the jobs I held in between having, a couple small businesses, he loved coffee, had experience working in a coffee shop. He convinced the boss to get a dual boiler Breville coffee maker. And so he was explaining to me, this really great guy, Boris, he was just explaining to me coffee, good coffee, and he just knew how to pull good shots. And so from him, I kind of knew, oh, there's really good coffee, and it was amazing. And so I didn't really go to coffee shops too much to like go and hang out and sit. Like I really did work quite a lot, 5-6 days a week, long hours. I wasn't really the coffee shop guy. But shortly before we came across Candor, opened Candor really, I became a big fan of Burien Press in Burien. And that's kind of where I developed a love for Olympia coffee specifically. And they've been a really amazing partner. We've had their coffees on our bar since we started to this day. And I really liked Burien Press. We lived in Burien right after we got married. That's where we started out. And as I started to get a little bit more organized, get more established in my career, once in a while I'd go sit at the coffee shop, open my laptop, write down some notes, collect my thoughts, like maybe when Sara was at her work. And so I kind of enjoyed the atmosphere as well as the coffee itself. And I remember in 2019, it was like December 2019, I was kind of writing out some ideas for family goals. And one of the goals was open a coffee shop someday.
I was together, really? Both of us.
Were we together on that?
We were together.
Okay, so it was a together brainstorming session. It was like, here's when we want to have kids, and here's, how much money we want to earn, and all these ideas that we had. And one of those goals, one of them was like, in the distant future, maybe in the next 10 years, open a coffee shop.
Wow, so it wasn't like random out of nowhere, like, hey, let's go open you guys actually talked about it and you thought about it?
Certainly, we had the dream. Yeah, everybody has the dream, right? Let's open a coffee shop. And for us, that's what it was. It wasn't like, we're gonna do this, we have a business plan, we have the funds secured, nothing like that. We're just like, we'll open a coffee shop someday. And it ended up being February 2020. 3 months later, we're in talks to buy the coffee shop that existed in this space at that time.
Wow, so basically a year later, right? Did
3 months later.
3 months. 3 months later.
But you know what? We wrote it down.
We wrote it down as a goal, yeah.
But when it came to like this as an opportunity, we weren't thinking about that.
We didn't even realize it. We opened that file like a year later and we're like, whoa, this was on our goals.
No way.
And we weren't buying the shop to like accomplish a goal. We just came across the opportunity. I had an office in the same business park, and I walked to this shop when it was called Everest Tea and Coffee. I ordered a coffee and it was scorching hot, burned my tongue. I vowed never to come back, and I didn't think twice about the place. And then I came back I said I would never come back, but I came back a second time because I was like, I wish this spot had great coffee. Same thing, scorched, super hot, burned my tongue, never coming back, never thought about it, but I could see it out of my office window every single day. I could see like the corner of this location.
So did you come home and say, Sara, I found the spot,
No.
let's buy the coffee shop? How did it happen?
Didn't even think about it.
Did you go to the place, to Everest Tea?
We went here once, right?
So I grew up in California.
Okay.
And we dated long distance. I would fly up, he would fly down in different seasons. And so the airport is not too far from here. So we were always looking for a spot to like kill the last 15 minutes we could be together.
Yeah.
And so one time we were driving through and he's like, oh, there's a spot, they have tapas.
Yeah, they're outside.
It had like a tapas sign.
Outside they had a round sign that said tapas. So that was one of like the many product offerings that this previous shop had.
Bizarre.
And so I just remember like munching on celery sticks and carrot sticks. And I was like, this is weird. Like I thought it was.
We'll never come back.
I thought it was a Starbucks. Like the the previous owners, not the ones that we bought it
Pete's.
from. The owners before
Right.
purposely put up a sign with the Starbucks font. I literally thought it was a Starbucks. I didn't even really look at the sign. And I come in here, I was like, I don't know what this is. Tapas, and it was a coffee shop.
So we did have one date.
We did have one date, but we didn't think twice about this place.
No.
And I would love to see, I'm sure you have some pictures, we'll put them
Oh,
up.
yeah.
The pictures for people to see what
was
this place
brown.
looked like before.
It was very
It was brown.
I mean,
Dark
Everything
brown.
was brown.
when you say scorching cup of coffee, I imagine like there was old leather couches here for no reason with like
Weird brown booths.
walls and
Yeah.
like it just was this weird vibe.
It had
of
like the
things.
low
it would
office
be-
ceiling tiles that you could pop up, you know?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Very low. So we vaulted the ceilings. Yeah, so
Wow.
let's get into that. So we ran into a mutual friend, and I was asking this girl about, a potential purchase, and it was actually a watch. I wanted to buy a watch.
Okay.
And she's like, hey, I don't have that watch that you're inquiring about, but like, here's my buddy, and he's selling his coffee shop. And I was like, really? He's like, and she's like, yeah, it's the one right by your office. And I said, really? So I'm like, hey, friend, how much do you want for the coffee shop? It's like 60,000. And I was like, well, okay. Do you have financials? Can you send me your number? She's like, sure. Yeah, I'm wrapping up my 2019 books. Like, I'll send you. They were bad. Like, not making any money. Like, couldn't really tell what was going on.
Well, they were
Had
doing
no idea.
everything here, right? They were doing everything from food to coffee to
Right.
tapas.
They had like a yoga girl coming in and doing like drinks and yoga. I mean, it was funky.
It was all over the place. I really don't know. I know that they had tried many, many things. And
He was kind of throwing things at the wall to see what would stick. And,
Yeah.
But it was just throwing everything at the wall and nothing was sticking. It was
they
just
they had a catering business. They recently opened a new restaurant, like at the
Oh,
time when he was
okay.
trying to sell. So it made sense. They had other focuses. And so they wanted to hand off the business. And essentially what it was is they were offering to sell us the equipment.
Okay.
And they had 2 really great employees that worked there. And it was pretty exciting because we were able to kind of train them. Like literally in an instant, we were able to tell them, hey, let's go to 160 degrees instead of 190 plus. And let's adjust the grind settings to make this Pete's coffee taste a little bit better. And like all of us were thrilled to see decent coffee coming off of that machine that burned my tongue over the last couple years. So anyhow, we had a pretty quick negotiation. We're like, yep, 60K, let's do it. Let's sign the papers.
Well, he came in on a Tuesday, I think, telling me, oh, I heard about this coffee shop.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
want
want
to hear
buy
this
it?
story. Did you just come in on like a
He literally just
random
came
day
in.
and dropped it on
He might
Sarah?
have called me.
I think
and it
I
was
called you.
Tuesday, I think.
Yeah.
And he was like, do you want to go to IKEA and see what it would take to price out furniture? And I was like, great. So I met him at IKEA, and I think Thursday was when we said, we'll buy it.
Yeah, we'll buy it. It was a couple days.
So it's
We're
a
like,
3-day
let's just do it.
decision to buy a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to me about the decision-making process. What was it like?
I don't think it was. There just like wasn't. There wasn't like much more than that.
Yeah,
I
you just,
think
like,
he
you just
looked at
buy
the
it.
books and
I couldn't tell what was going on. Because basically what I did was I looked at the books, I was like, yeah, probably every number in here is like fake. So I just like,
Yeah.
whatever. I'm buying an unknown and we're just gonna make it legit.
Okay, so you were paying 60 grand for the equipment
Yeah.
and partially the location too. 'Cause this is
Part
a
of it was
great
the location. I mean, it's a great location. It's a corner spot, pretty well-known intersection.
it
Lot
used
of
to be a
traffic.
Starbucks. So clearly they did
Used
some
to be a
research on
Starbucks.
the location.
So we're kind of following in their footsteps. When Starbucks left, they gutted the space. And then
I mean, gutted. Like they pulled up tile. They pulled like colors off the wall. Like
Yeah.
gutted.
Really?
Gutted.
Wow, okay.
And so there were some folks next door that had a restaurant, and they said, "Hey, we'll take this space." They leased it out after Starbucks moved out. They put in a very basic coffee shop, like bare bones remodel, bare bones furniture, very very cheap flooring, just super basic.
I like to call it teriyaki furniture because if you go into any teriyaki place, they have those specific chairs and tables.
Yeah.
They had teriyaki furniture
Full
in
teriyaki.
here.
I sold all the furniture almost immediately
You still
to,
made some money off of that thing. You have
we
to
sold it
recoup
to
your
like a Korean
$60,000.
a Korean restaurant.
Yep.
Um,
They had some big weird brown booths just stuck in the middle of the room.
Sarah, how did you feel about this whole experience? Like 3 days to buy a coffee shop, were you just 100% on board, or did you have some reservations? Were you nervous? What was going through your mind?
I was super excited. I think the coffee shop was more of my dream than his. And I think that we're just a little bit crazy. He's definitely pushed me to be a little bit more crazy in life and take
Bold.
risks. Yeah, really bold.
Yeah.
I think Daniel's very like optimistic.
yeah.
I'm just super excited to have a design project. That's where I come in.
Kind of the agreement we came to was like, hey, if we're working on this together, then let's do it.
Yeah, he's the business side, I'm the design side, and between the two of us, it was like, oh, this will be super fun.
Yeah, it's the
And it
perfect
was.
match.
And
Yeah.
it was fun.
We
A lot
didn't
of
have
fun.
any kids at that point, and it was like we could get in here at
We were working here till like 3 a.m. painting the walls. Like
Yeah.
day
So
one,
you guys
we were
did
painting
everything
them white.
yourselves. You guys came
So
in
not
what
with
you
your
see here.
bootstrap. No,
Not
not
this.
this.
So here's the timeline, right? So we closed on the deal March 1st. So after
Okay.
March 1st, all the revenue.
March 1st, 2021.
Okay,
No,
crazy
2020.
time.
Sorry, 2020. Yeah.
March 1st, 2020, COVID hits, third week of March.
Wow.
So
that's
we're coming in
that
and-
time
and
to spend 60 grand.
The streets are full, and we're thinking,
This is great.
this
We
is
got
great.
this.
Like we're gonna start upgrading things. So every night we're coming in, we're painting the walls from dark brown to white. So it's like layer after layer, and we're like, we're just gonna run it as is and slowly upgrade. But after about 4 weeks, March 26th, we had like 6 people come in, and I just told our employees, I said, hey, it's just not going to work. Like, we're just going to have to stop working.
What do you mean you had 6? Oh, because
6
restrictions. correct?
Customers.
No restrictions.
No
yet.
restrictions. No restrictions.
Nobody came
yet.
in.
But
There
I mean, it
the
was-
streets were empty.
It was like lockdown.
Full lockdowns.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was a ghost town. It was really,
Ghost town.
It was weird. So we had our barista working, and we made $36 total.
gross,
That was
gross revenue
That month? Or-
no, that day.
for the day.
That
So
day.
I mean, it was declining.
wow. So,
we're making
yeah.
like $100 a day,
And it was like
$50
friends,
a day.
right? Like coming to support.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the feeling? Were you like, hey, we're just going to file bankruptcy on this business?
Oh.
No,
We weren't
not-
even thinking
not at
about
all.
that. We
We
weren't
were
thinking
like, 2 weeks and we'll be right back open.
No,
Like,
we didn't really know, but we didn't really think too hard. And this brings me to, let's just put it out there.
Okay.
You need to have money to start a coffee shop. You cannot start it, in my opinion, if you don't have like most of the funds.
How much funds
Cash.
are we talking about?
Like right now in today's dollars, if you're starting a shop from scratch, probably 300,000.
3. Okay.
200 on the low end, 300 is comfortable.
Okay, break down why do you need $300,000?
So check this out. Let's say, for us it was COVID. For you, it might be somebody has an accident, you got to close the shop for a week or 2 or a month, machine breaks down, explodes, anything can happen, and then all of a sudden you're paying rent. So the rent here when we started, it was about $6,000 a month.
Wow.
Still is 6,500-ish. And so you have to be able to sustain those payments if you want your business to like not go bankrupt
Of course.
or close down or whatever. So for us, thankfully with my other business, it was kind of an essential business, wasn't really impacted too much. Our income stayed fairly steady, so we were able to sustain the costs.
So it was just a tax write-off at that point, just whatever we can get on the
we weren't even thinking like that.
It's not
It
a
was
tax.
just-
Look, forget about tax write-offs. It was a loss.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
yeah, we wrote it off, but it wasn't like it made it better.
Yeah.
We're still losing $6,000 a month.
Yeah, I can't
So-
imagine just.
Yeah, so employees were stoked because they were making more on unemployment. You remember that
I
time?
do
People made more on
remember, yeah.
unemployment sitting at home. They lived very far away, and they ended up having a baby right in the time where we were closed, and they just never made it
The
back.
2 employees were boyfriend, girlfriend.
Oh, okay,
They
so
were-
the ones you inherited.
Yeah.
So they weren't your staff; they were
No.
different staff. So you
Yeah.
guys, okay.
They were great. I
Really
really
nice
liked
people.
them. They lived south of Tacoma,
Oh, okay,
and it was a
wow.
commute, and then the baby.
And then
we just-
COVID. Like,
We never reconnect. I mean, we offered them their positions, and they said, "Hey, we found
Yeah.
stuff. So we ended up starting with entirely new staff, which was pretty amazing. We had a really great manager, Katie, who just could handle the craziness of starting a coffee shop from scratch. Great leader.
She was a phenomenal.
Good manager. And so that was like a crucial hire. And we actually hired it.
It was 6 girls?
I think it was like more like 8 or 9.
Yeah, maybe 8.
8 or 9. And so because of the lockdowns and actually because our permits weren't like fully active, we had actually had our entire team working for a month while not being open. So it was kind of like people would come in, they could still order, but
It
we
was
technically
like a soft open.
it was a soft open, like we literally were not advertising it. I just said literally come in and make drinks.
Oh, really?
Because we wanted the product to be good once we opened. So
yeah, a couple hours a day, yeah.
So I think we had 4-hour shifts. So we had 2-3 people coming every single day, 4-hour shifts, making coffee. And there was little construction tweaks that were happening. Furniture was getting put in. And so that's an example of a cost. You know, we spent $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 because we didn't have our permits in place, but we wanted our team to stay until opening day. And to keep them busy and also the product to be good, like we had to invest money. You know, we're pouring milk down the drain, espresso down the drain because they're just practicing. It took us from about July or end of June when we started construction to November 15th to open.
Oh, wow.
Part of it was lack of experience. Part of it was COVID constraints. Could never get the plumber to show up because the plumber is the most in-demand guy ever, especially during
Plumbing,
COVID.
we ended up, like, our contractors ended up bringing in, like, some guy from Tennessee who was naive and didn't know about the commercial stuff here in...
Look, they made a lot of excuses.
It was kind of crazy.
But we got it done.
Yep.
And we ended up, because of their delays and because of various mistakes, we were able to hammer out a pretty good deal. So
and because we were here daily. Like, we were here.
We were here every single day managing the construction. And I want to say it was roughly like, to get everything done in here was probably like 80 to 100,000.
Okay, so
that's demoing everything that existed here. That was cutting trenches in the ground to reroute and put our bar in a different location for the drains.
We did pretty hefty construction. We didn't go low key.
Yeah.
We kind of decided once we did all the minor updates in the old shop.
And we ripped it all out.
And then we just ripped everything out. I mean, we gutted the place. The ceiling we moved up. They had the bar here and we moved it over there. I mean, it was a complete, total like gut job. So, I mean, that cost could have been less.
Right.
But it ended up still being high. I mean, you've got carrying cost is what you're talking about. So you need to sustain.
So the landlord said, don't tell anybody. But this is 3 years ago, so I'm going to expose it. We begged them and said, hey, please give us a break. And they cut us a break of 3 months.
Okay.
We didn't have to pay rent for 3 months.
Okay.
Granted, we were closed already for a couple months. And then we remodeled for another 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
So it didn't cover the whole cost, but that was like, I mean, essentially 15, 16, 17 grand. It helped.
Absolutely.
So we saved that.
They've been great. They really love us. I think it's interesting now looking back, we've brought up their
traffic, right?
We've brought up like the whole facility.
The image of the park is much better.
The image of the park,
The image of the building is better.
I think like I've talked to some other tenants and stuff and they're like, yeah, you know, we really love being next to your shop. Like it's a great, you know, it doubles up for our customers and everything. So we were in a good position. We didn't realize it then, but we were a great tenant for them.
And actually,
they've been great landlords.
Yeah, we should mention we have business partners, and that helped a lot. A good friend of mine from college, husband and wife, they wanted to get involved.
Why?
And so I said, hey, do you want it? Like, let's do this 50-50. And they kind of did some numbers. They said, hey, like our finances, we can't quite handle it. We'll do 20%. So they bought 20%. And they basically, with us, invested 20-80. Okay. So we're putting, both of us, they put in significant amounts. So in total, we put in around $390,000. and they put in around 77, 78,000, whatever the 80-20 number is.
Wow, 390 to upgrade the space and
Just to this point, right?
oh, to this point.
Yeah, so
Where we're at now.
Yeah, so over the course of 3 years, so in 2023, for example, we put in 10 grand into the business.
Okay.
In 2023, but the year before, actually, where's my? I have a little chart here, and this is the most detailed numbers that I have. And part of it's COVID. I knew this would happen. I gotta
Unlock your phone.
unlock my phone. So dumb. It's like a focus thing.
It's okay. We'll cut it out. It'll go.
It's fine. I don't have to cut it. It's just how I operate.
It's $390,000
So-
for what? I mean, I get the. Or are
So-
you talking about
yeah,
just spend?
We'll get in there into that in just a moment. So in 2020, we put in 290,000 total.
Wow.
290,000. So that was to buy the business. That was to do the renovation. That was to pay all the staff. That was to pay rents during construction. But also when we opened, we were very slow. So we were like negative 6,000, 7,000 a month. So we had enough traffic at the beginning to cover the cost of the employees. Like we had only one person on shift at a time because traffic was slow. So we made enough to like pay the utility bill, pay for the beans, pay for the milk, pay for the staff. And maybe even we weren't quite covering that, but it was close enough to where it's like, hey, if this business is going to succeed, we need our doors open.
Yeah.
So we're paying 6-7 grand a month for a while.
We were also in COVID. I mean, it wasn't like the super lockdown anymore and people were loosening up.
Yeah.
But we were still in COVID where we had, 50% occupancy. Oh, nope. Now we're back to 20%. Like it was back and
Yeah,
forth.
we went through a lot of that local regulation, like back and forth. And it even if we didn't care about it, where in some ways we took a more lax approach to it, other people did, our customers did. And so they would show up more or they'd show up less. Like it wasn't really up to us and how we respond to COVID, how many people showed up at the door.
Yeah.
So it kind of went down by like more than half every year. So I think the second year, 2021, you're dealing with COVID. The shop is still not like fully
outfitted.
Well, the customer base is not there yet. We're building a clientele.
Well, I think also in 2021, we started adding things. So once the lockdowns really ended, like the government things, we added more tables because we had less furniture in the beginning, which was a benefit because we couldn't have that many people sitting inside. So then we slowly started adding furniture. We added, I think our refrigerators died, just
So part of the cost is we upgraded all the equipment. So a new espresso machine was like almost 15 grand or more, something around there. New grinder, $2,000-$3,000. The hot water dispenser, the Marco Mix, was like 6 grand. Plus you're paying somebody to come in and install it. We got pastry case. I mean, I was calling a glass company, hey, cut the glass this side, come in and put it in. But that's, $750. Everything costs.
Oh yeah, it's just
It's going out.
you come up with the simplest of ideas. You're like, I just want a little bar on the windows. And then you're like, wow, this is very involved. And everything has to be commercial grade also. So if you do a home renovation, we're pretty used to that. You have like your idea of what things cost. Commercial, everything has to be like permitted. Everything has to be super like approved. I mean, the lights have to be UI listed. Like it's just super strict. And so everything you do has to be commercial, which means all your contractors have to be up to date. They all have to know the code. They all have to, work by the code. Like it's just double what that counter would cost here is like at home. So it's like, everything just costs so much more.
And then huge disclaimer about the way that we ran this business. We were not here on shift making coffee. So we've always had a manager. We've had our staff. Nobody's working for free. we don't have free labor from children or anything like that. Like
You don't have little kids back there.
Our little 3-year-old.
Where's your kid?
But so we've always managed it like kind of a little bit from a distance. Myself having, another business that I'm like full time in, and Sara not being like a coffee aficionado. Like we never had the urge to jump behind the counter and make coffee. So in those months where we lost $6-7 grand, it could have been us behind the bar working 40 hours a week, and we recoup most of that,
right?
And potentially even boost sales with like our sales skills. So somebody that's really motivated, ambitious, and is going to work a lot behind the bar might save a lot of those costs.
Oh, absolutely,
right.
yeah.
And that is a huge cost. Yeah. And I think in a coffee shop, when you have any kind of employees or in any business, they're not going to care as much as you as the owner. So me as the owner, if I was behind the counter, I'd be like, how can I upsell? How can I, hey, would you like a pastry with your coffee? Or like, would you like some syrups? Like whatever those additions. When you have, young people, it's their first job. Like, don't get me wrong, our team is phenomenal, especially right now. Like, they're just so amazing. We love every single one of them, but they just don't think, like a 30-year-old,
right?
They're 19,
they don't want to
20.
upsell coffee. Like, who wants to upsell coffee?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's totally fine. That's kind of what you expect. You can train it, but you kind of accept a little bit of like a, maybe it's 10% less or 5% because it's not you, and that's fine. I'm totally happy to make that trade because then I don't have to be the one selling the coffee, but you accept a little bit of a loss.
So you guys had a rocky start. I mean, COVID,
it was tricky.
Money just feels like going down the drain.
Down the drain.
I mean,
it was turning into beautiful things, though.
It did. It was, and I love
we're
that you
very
didn't give up.
satisfied with
It's
like.
worth it.
We're thrilled with what it's turned out to be, and a testament has been to the people that have joined us, our employees basically, and our business partners. So our business partners, I mean, we haven't talked about them very much, but that's a very important reason why we're successful, because they have skills that we don't have. So on their side, they're very organized, very detail oriented, very good at throwing what our business does on a spreadsheet, very good at the very consistent, like, hey, let's have a weekly call with the manager, let's have a weekly call. Whereas Sara and I, like Sara will show up every day, grab a coffee, observe this, observe that, hey, we got to fix this. I'm more behind the scenes, like
making sure payroll is all good.
Making sure the payroll is done, but also like I hired all the original people, and I kind of maintained like.
I always say, in the best possible way, we're the big bosses. Like we don't like day-to-day manage or talk to, because they have their manager and that's their boss. I mean, she's hiring and firing and all that kind of stuff, and like talking to them and correcting them and helping them. We're the big bosses. Like we come in, order the coffee.
The larger decisions.
Put out fires.
Sara is the one who, so we have a merchandise shelf, and so that's one of our product offerings: soaps, jewelry, coffee. Let's see, different
candles,
oils, cups,
candles,
hats. Sara designed the hats. So we have a variety of kind of merchandise items that bring in some of the revenue. Literally every part of our business has opportunity that we've not tapped because, our business partners have full-time jobs. We have, I have a full career. We have a pretty big property and baby and
and taking care of a kid is, I mean, you
so
leave me alone with my toddler.
We just have other priorities.
We have,
I understand.
I've been in the last couple of years much more involved in church. I'm a deacon at our church, and that's like I realize I'm way more passionate about that than about the coffee shop. It's actually not really.
That's good.
It's actually one of the reasons why we're selling, because it's not fair to the business how little time we put in, but it's also, I would say, like a testament to God's grace how well it's gone. Because for how much time we've put in the last few years, your normal business would be gone. It would evaporate. But because of how blessed we are by the people that we have, by the work that we've put in, our business partners have put in, like it's stuck.
And the customers.
It's stuck.
Do you think there's a faith element here too? Because I know Candor also hosts, Bible studies here. You guys have I would say, church kind of situation that meets here weekly. You said there's going to be baptism here.
There's going to be a baptism.
Week, so
I don't know exactly where they're putting the tub, but I think they've crammed 125, 130 people in here.
Don't tell the fire marshal.
Yeah, that's triple the occupancy, but we're like, great.
It's been really cool to see. I think during COVID, it was a really unique time, really scary as a restaurant. We did a lot of things like markets that we brought in small businesses, and that's one of the reasons why we have things on the shelf here is all those small businesses. I was like, these are great products, let's put them on the shelf. But they would do like pop-up markets. And so only the people who were working the booths would be in the shop sitting. They would take up kind of all the seating. So then people would just like file through and file out, and they would bring in their customers. We would bring in customers for them also. So it was like this really cool like little ecosystem. People ask if we ever are going to do them again. And I'm like, guys, if we closed all the seating on a Saturday, you would all cry, you know?
Yeah,
so I don't think, but that's like one of the ways we got through COVID. And I think through COVID, there was so much going on, and there wasn't a whole lot of places you could go and like relax, take off your mask and drink a coffee. And because it kind of got around that we were a little bit less strict on that, people really felt at home. And a certain type of person, we have always made it a big point to be welcoming to everybody who comes in, like regardless of what you believe or who you are, or how you're dressed or whatever. But I think people gravitated towards us who were more like-minded, who were Christian, who were conservative. And I think word got around that our shop had more of that like, vibe, and it wasn't very much of a secret. And so I think through COVID, it was just such a huge blessing to our shop that we could have never planned or organized, or even like there's just nothing we could have done to create that. And that's been represented in our staff, which is phenomenal. And we didn't realize this when we opened, but we're super close to the hospital. And people come down here who's, somebody's in surgery there and they need to take a break, come out of the waiting room, come get a coffee and go back up. Or somebody just found out they have cancer. Or we've had people stop while they're in labor to come get a coffee and say hi and then go deliver their baby. I mean, we have all these people who are kind of in need and, having a bad day or just a rough time, and our baristas have been able to minister to them, pray with them, encourage them. And again, something we didn't think about when we bought the shop.
We're not coaching them, hey, you should pray for people. Like, it just happens.
Yeah, and that's how they are. And like, it's just been so evident, like God's faithfulness through this whole process. And like you said, that we were kind of just like putting money in and we didn't see anything, but I feel like that's what we've been seeing. We've been seeing so much of God and his love and his blessings in maybe not a financial way. Yes, in a financial way, but also like just so much through like people and connection. And it's,
I would say
it's crazy. It's like, so cool.
The spiritual ROI is like the best, the main one here. And it has made it way worth it, very worth it. High spiritual ROI.
It's hard to come in here without seeing a Bible study or a Bible open.
And I think this is very encouraging for business people, because a lot of business people, they separate church and business. And they have a hard time of figuring out, okay, I'm going out and I'm a ruthless guy. We're negotiating contracts, we're spending money, we're investing, we want to make money out of this, but there's still a way that even through your business, you're honoring God. And people are hearing the gospel, they're being prayed for. This space is being used for Christian community. And I think one super important thing that a lot of people need to understand is they can honor God through their business, no matter what it is. And if we had more people who got into business like you guys did, imagine how many more businesses had people who are Christian, and that culture would be reflected in their business, and it would impact everybody else.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like, you need to make money.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this business would not exist if I didn't have a realistic income to support it. And so even now, like, I would love it if it was wildly profitable. But if you just look at the cause and effect, because we're not here, it's not wildly profitable. And that's why I say, like, thank you, God, that it's gone so well, considering that it's been on autopilot for a lot of it. So there is a way to do business in a loving, Christ-like way. That's what I strive to do. And so, but my message is not like, hey, you should lose money, do it for free. That doesn't compute. And I agree. Like, we should not be going out into business to like maximize profits at the expense of doing it the right way, doing it a godly way, doing it in a holy way. And so in this unique, every shop is unique, and this is part of our story. In this unique case, it's turned out to be like a really wonderful, like, spiritual place. Actually, most of our staff, almost all of them, are believers. And that leads me to kind of one unique characteristic of our shop that I've been super firm on and very thankful for, is that we're not open on Sundays. We've never been open on Sunday. And so somebody might look at that and say, hey, that's a revenue missed opportunity. But for us, we have just seen blessings out of it. For example, our longest employee has been here for 4 years, since we started, 4.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
All of our staff have a lot of tenure, like 2-3 years. And a lot of
That's
experience.
a really long time for a
that's
coffee
very
shop.
long.
A lot of time for a coffee shop.
Average is like 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Like
Possibly,
6, maybe
yeah.
like 8 months. Service
It's a temporary
industry
job.
Service
Yeah, it's a
industry is
young,
high
it's like
turnover,
a first,
yeah.
But here, because we're not asking any of these very, like, I mean, Christians ought to be people of the highest integrity, the highest work ethic, the most honest, the most friendly. And I think our staff really represents that standard. And we've been able to keep them because we're not asking them to do things that go against God's law. We're not saying, come in and work on Sunday and make us more money. And so that's one where I think it's been part of why it's worked for us in this circumstance, where we've been pretty hands-off, but it's gone very well because we've retained our staff. They've built up a lot of experience. All of our customers are treated like wonderfully every single time. And we don't really have to worry, like, are they going to represent us wrong? Because we know who they represent.
That's
Jesus
good.
Christ.
Wow.
So
let me pivot back to starting a coffee shop.
yes.
I think this is probably the passion project, the desire of so many people.
Yeah.
Now, you guys did it, and you did it through a very tumultuous, unknown time. If you were to do it today, if you were to restart, if somebody sat down and said, Daniel and Sarah, please tell me, how do I start a coffee shop? What would be, I would say, the correct, or at least in your perspective, the correct way to do it? Other than have a lot of money.
I mean, literally, like, look, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, you know, I'm 22 years old, I have no money, I want to start a coffee shop, I would be like,
Don't.
dude.
Start a coffee cart? Start a coffee cart? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know anything about coffee cart. And really, I'm such a case-by-case basis person, I can't really give you like a formula of like, here's the right way to do it. Like, I don't even know what the right way to do it is. You know, this is the way we did it.
I don't think we necessarily did it the right way either.
Yeah,
like
no, that's what I'm saying.
we just did it. Like,
Yeah, we
there
just
was
did it.
no failing. It was like, we just have to do it. And I would say, if you're someone who is obsessed with coffee,
Yeah.
you're in the coffee world, you know coffee, you have connections there, you know, wake up, you have all the trinkets. We have a friend, and he just opened a coffee trailer. It is sick. His company is Mora Coffee, and I just have never met anyone more into coffee than this guy. He is awesome. He is kind, he is friendly, he's outgoing, he's ambitious, he knows everybody ever in the coffee industry. And I'm like, that guy needs to open a coffee shop. He will be successful in coffee because his brain, his full-time passion, like, his life is coffee, right? And he'll be successful because that's where he's at. But I've met one, maybe two people like that. The other people, genuinely, I don't
do it.
Don't mean to sound like crazy. If you have $500,000 to burn,
Knock yourself out.
knock yourself out. Have a beautiful shop, pay your employees well, like great, like go for it. And there are people out there like that.
I mean, we were kind of like that, except we were like right in the middle where it started.
Where you thought you
we're not
didn't
super
copy
long,
people?
but-
Wait, we didn't really?
Well, we
were
started
just-
out as like, we want to start a coffee shop. It's all exciting. And then it became like, hey, we just
we
pay everybody
financed a
well.
coffee shop.
Yeah. I mean, it's been great. I mean,
We've been really blessed, I think, is what it comes down to. In every step of the process, we've been blessed financially with this other business.
Yeah.
We've been blessed with our staff. I mean, you don't know, like we hired strangers. We interviewed them for 20 minutes, but we've been blessed by them. We've been blessed by the community, the Slavic community, honestly. Like our opening day, we had our highest profit for like 3 years. It took us like 3 years to get to that highest profit that we had on our opening day. Like that is so much kindness and love and support. And I have a screen recording of my Instagram on our opening day, and I'm just going through all my friends' stories. Every single person had posted
that was
our, like, this is
Opening.
our opening, like come to the Candor opening. Like it was just incredible and just kind, like so kind.
Yep.
So we've just been blessed in every step, and not of our own doing. Like just the Lord has blessed this coffee shop in such an awesome way.
yeah, I built that table right over there. And my dad, my brothers helped me out. And I mean, we were here at 4 or 5 in the morning one day delivering it after painting it and staining it. And they helped me out with these marble tables, putting the legs on, gluing it all together. Tearing up the flooring. My mom was in here tearing up flooring. Like there was a lot of sweat that went into it. That wasn't just us. We've had a lot of people. And I think that would be true of anybody maybe a little bit younger, starting out, starting a shop. Like you need people around you, and it's really an exciting time. And it is doable.
It's doable. And yeah, if you're in the shop working, a lot of that cost is employees, right? And training, and then I think one of the huge things that we had is we worked with Olympia Coffee, and they have a rep who is the kindest man, so generous, incredibly knowledgeable. So I was just talking to someone on the phone who was asking like, hey, I kind of want to start a shop. What do you think? And I was like, do you have the money? You know, like how into coffee are you? Like, what does this look like for you? But then the other thing that I said was find a
good roaster.
A good roaster. And I cannot even begin to tell you how much support they gave us. It was like, hey, Honor, where do I drill the hole in my countertop for our machine? And he was like, oh, you have this machine, it's this big, you should drill the hole right here. I have plans, I'll send it over. I'll come into your shop and tell you exactly how to line it up. Like the amount of knowledge he has on opening shops that he freely shared with us,
Yeah, it's amazing.
you couldn't pay for it. I mean, it was just so kind, and he continues to be like that.
Yeah.
Every question we have, he's like, I've got an answer, I will find an answer, I will come in and train your baristas. Like, the support from our roaster, Olympia, has been hands down, like incredible.
So let me ask just a couple questions, kind of fire questions.
Okay.
How important is location?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that. That's probably the most important. So if we were to do this again, I'd spend a lot more time identifying the location. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, you want my coffee shop for 30 grand? You say no. And then you look at the location, but you look at as many as you can, and you really figure out, like, you need a realistic, as low as possible rent, and you need a spot that you like, that you know your customers will like, a location that you like. I would say that's probably the most important.
In Washington, you need a drive-through.
I would say a drive-through. We're missing a drive-through. And there's no way to do it on this property. The landlords have explored a lot of options with us.
Yeah.
That's one drawback of this location.
And I think that's why Starbucks moved, if I had to guess.
Yeah, they moved down the street, have their own building, drive-through. So location, it starts with location. And then everything builds on the location, literally.
Okay.
The interior of the shop, the staff that you hire, it all revolves around that spot. So location is super important. Whether you buy one, whether you lease one.
So, okay, locations, go ahead.
This will be really good for somebody that's trying to start out and not spend 300 grand. You have to door knock, but I think the opportunity would be to get in with a large building that wants good quality tenants on the basement, on the ground floor to start a coffee shop. We were even approached by a building at one point in Bellevue that they had a vacant space and they said, hey, we want a coffee shop here.
For our tenants.
They weren't looking for any tenant. They're like, we want a coffee shop here because our office building is full of employees, office people. They want coffee. We want you guys here. So find a building like that because they can offer you a much below market rent. This building was offering us to just cover the triple nets, which was like 20 or 30% of the total cost.
So they would cover most of the build out.
They would cover most of the rent and even some of the build out, which is called like a tenant improvement credit.
Yep.
So the landlords here give us around 30,000, which contributed to what we put in. Obviously, it wasn't all of it, but that's all negotiable. So I would say that's a opportunity for like a low cost startup would be get into a building in Bellevue, Tacoma, Bellevue, Seattle, maybe, you know.
Tacoma's got a lot of great coffee shops.
Tacoma's cool. I don't know
Tacoma,
anything about Tacoma, but like Bellevue, there's a lot of new construction. You got to talk to landlords, leasing managers, even like real estate leasing agents. If their name's on the door, just call them and say, hey, I know coffee. I have a perfect concept for this suite 105. Like, what would it take? What would it take? So I would say that would be one where you kind of get a low rent. But you do, I mean, you just have to decide if that's what you want to do, is be in that spot.
Yeah, no, location's super important.
Location's very important, yeah.
If you guys were to restart, would you start in this location?
No.
No? Okay.
This has been a good location,
It's
though.
been good.
I mean, it's a great stop off for a lot of people. Hop off the freeway, grab a coffee, and go. It's on the way to a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Also-
I think I mean, you always want a better location. You want lower rent and better location. That's what we would want for this if we were doing it again.
But I think this location, because we don't have a drive-through, we have great parking, though. We have a ton of good
parking,
free
parking. That was the drawback of the Bellevue option that we
building.
explored. There was a parking garage. You had to validate your parking, so your baristas would be validating all day, and then your customers would get charged sometimes on parking, and that was like one of the biggest turnoffs. So that's an advantage
here.
of this spot, and everybody knows it.
You need to have a lot of money. You need to have a good location. Talk to me about the actual profit on a coffee shop. Does it make any money?
Yeah.
Are you guys making any money? Are you guys still paying for this thing?
Yeah, for the last year and a half, we've kind of been breaking even. Over the last few months, it's creeping up to where maybe we're making $1,500 a month or $2,000.
Wow.
So the account balance is going like a little bit up.
Creeping up.
It's creeping up.
It's trending up.
But that has everything to do with mostly, you know, on top of your rent, it's going to be your staff. So our rent's like $6,000 a month. Our staff is like 22 to 25 grand a month.
Wow.
So the staffing is very important. So if you have too many people on bar for the number of customers you have, you're burning money on the hours. If you have too few people, you start burning your customers because they don't get their drinks fast enough.
And they leave.
And the quality suffers because they're not having enough time to do the drink. So just to give you an idea of the costs, our espresso shots have costed roughly 50 cents each, like 49 to 51 cents since the day we opened. Milk is less than that. So and the cups are around 10 cents. Lids, 4 cents. So we got double walled cups. They're pretty nice to go. So an entire drink without any syrups with whole milk is around $1 or less. Now oat milk, everybody hates to pay more for oat milk, but it's extremely expensive.
So expensive.
It's sometimes up, depending on your size, it's up to $1, maybe more. For the oat milk itself. Just a little bit of oat milk's like $1. And then you have your 50-cent shot. And then our syrups are made in-house. So every week we brew a batch of vanilla, caramel. I mean, depends on the season, but we make all of our own syrups. And that's not free. But it's similar. It costs money. So we charge, I think, 75 cents or $1 for syrups. And that really does add up the cost of a drink, for sure.
Okay.
So let's say 80% margin on drinks, and pastries, 40%. Our avocado toast, I haven't done the numbers recently, but that's a really profitable one.
Really? Yeah.
That's why people can't afford homes.
Avocado toast, literally.
That's what I've heard.
11, $12 for avocado toast, and the cost is somewhere less than $2. So that's, again, an 80% margin item. And that's a huge opportunity that we have not captured with this shop, is adding like 2 or 3 more toast options and marketing them more prominently. Because those are easy, $8 profit every time it rings up. And I think the next owners, they'll figure it out. And I'm looking forward to see them like really succeed financially with it.
So I guess some advice that I'm going to extrapolate through what you said is do more than just coffee. If you're going to open a coffee shop, figure out how to increase the per customer. I don't know what that word
ticket
is.
average.
Yeah, your ticket average.
Yep.
Your guys' ticket average right now is around...
It's around 10.
Around $10. I mean, even if you add a pastry at, let's say, 13, that's a big deal when you're serving, how many customers a day?
200 to 300.
200 to 300, wow.
Yeah.
So
200 on a slow weekday, 300 on a busy weekend, something like that.
That higher ticket average also makes your employees really happy because they'll get a bigger tip from that ticket average.
So the tips has been, our customers have been extremely generous. We're getting $10 an hour on tips. We decided to split it equally with the team, so every barista makes the same amount.
Oh, wow.
In terms of the tips. Part of that is because there's shifts, like in the morning, you see the tips come in. But the morning, the closers have cleaned the shop. You just come in, you turn on the machines, you're good.
Yeah.
The closers, they're here late, they're working, they're closing up, they're cleaning, they're mopping, they're cleaning the toilets. They deserve tips for those hours as well.
Yeah.
So we decided to do it equally, and it's worked pretty well. And so our managers, we pay them more per hour on their base pay than our entry-level baristas. And then the tips go on top of the base pays that we've established.
Wow, okay, that's awesome. So as we wrap up, I know it's been, I think, 45 minutes now.
Told you we could talk for a long
Time flies
time.
when you're having fun. Okay, as we wrap up, is there any advice that you guys would want to give to anybody who's thinking about starting a coffee shop, has a passion for it? What would you like to end this interview with?
Don't think too hard.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it.
Yeah. But if
like
you
that, yeah.
if you don't have a lot of time, you need a lot of money. If you have a lot of time and a lot of passion, like, don't let this interview discourage you from actually going out and doing it, because there's always a way. There's really always a way, but it's going to be very creative. And you got to just full focus. Don't think about anything else, and you can do it. But if you don't have a lot of time, if you're a little bit more established in your career, expect it to cost a lot, because you're not going to be able to invest the time that it needs to really thrive.
And if you allow me to add on to that, if somebody is really passionate about coffee, I can guarantee you there's a lot of people with money that are willing to invest into you to create something like this.
Yeah.
It's just hard to find somebody who has that owner mentality that you could really trust and invest into.
Yeah,
And of course, there needs to be a relationship, right? If somebody just called you tomorrow and said, hey, can you give me $500,000 to start a coffee shop, you're not just going to send them a check. But
I don't think I would ever invest in a coffee shop.
Really?
I don't think so. Unless it was a very genuinely innovative concept.
So never again? No more
level.
coffee shops?
I think we had our fun.
It's kind of like this fun retirement idea. You find a hole in the wall, you do it super just dialed in. But it's like a vanity project.
Yeah.
So we've kind of realized that we just...
Guys, my popularity soared.
Yeah.
When
it makes you popular,
everyone
people think
knew my
you're so
name.
cool. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But the reason why is, for one location, there's not a huge expectation of large profits. But for a savvy owner, they can make it happen. And if they scale to multiple locations, then it makes sense. So if somebody really had a compelling proposition, sure. But this is not investable. That's why I'm selling.
Yeah. Well, thank you
Cut
guys.
that out, please. But that's, for me, I'm the vanity coffee shop owner.
Passion project.
Yeah, like the guys are gonna come in, multiple locations, franchise, like that's some ideas that we had, but we're not gonna do it. That's
Yeah.
why
We don't have the time for the.
Well, it's been a good journey. Thank you guys for starting something amazing. Thank you for coming on here. And hopefully for your next passion project, we'll get to do a similar interview.
Wonderful.
That'd be fun.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cut.